Good morning. It is Monday. And I just wanted to give an update. I'm here standing in front of the giant Tijuana sign. You can't really read all the letters, but it says Tijuana, and over there it says Mexico, but there's some police right there, so I don't want to get them on camera. I'm interested to see if this is going to stay live, because if you've been following, my last two videos have been edited and kind of bothered by Facebook. So I don't know why, because I'm not doing anything that is against any laws. So anyway, just wanted to give an update. We came here this morning and they brought a couple people across. As usual, so far the number of people that have been returned has been much lower. So literally what we discovered is last Tuesday, the day that some of our friends happened to be crossing over, there also was a visit from the head of the Immigration or Homeland Security Department from the United States. Sorry, I forget her name. Something like Kristen. And so basically, because she was on site, I believe in San Diego, they ran a lot more numbers than they usually do. So they took over 80 people, whereas they've usually been taking 20. Don't quote me on those numbers, it's just an estimate. So basically they took a lot more people than usual on that one day to act as if they are always taking that many people, which they're not. So then also that program started that day, and so then they returned 12 people that day, and then they've been returning just 1 or 2 every other day. And so, okay, good. I'm glad that the service is working. So basically, we're still trying to figure out what the policy means. They said that there's a statement and put out again that they're going to expand that policy of bringing people back. They said that apparently it's working, which I don't know how they're guiding that, other than the fact that people like us volunteers are finding the people coming back and getting them set up with help. There's actually no services being provided for them by the Mexican government. We read some document, I'm forgetting what, where it said that basically the people that were returned were going to be told, or were going to be provided for, that the Mexican government was going to provide them with humanitarian services. And yet that's not happening, because we're literally standing here and people will just come out and look totally lost, and they have no idea what to do or where to go, and they're like, oh, okay, I just came back, I have a court date in 6 weeks, but what do I do now? So yeah, we have not seen any large shelters opening up, no kitchens. So we're wondering, we have people here, volunteers, waiting to see if people are returned back each day, and then taking care of them and the resources that we have. But we have not seen any kind of formal provisions provided for these people coming back. So we're kind of worried. Our friends happen to come back, and we are close with them, we know them, and now we're having to relaunch another fundraiser because we're needing to provide for them for longer term. They're going to be getting jobs. One of our guys started a job yesterday, but I know just for right now, we were expecting them to be not well taken care of, unfortunately, but provided for in the hielera, in the detention, and now that is not happening for some of the people. So then right now, I just met with a family that's actually from Nicaragua, and the father is really scared that he's going to be separated from the kids when they go through the hielera. We haven't seen that to happen so far. We've seen families go through with mom, dad, and kids, and they're held for only about 3 days. One of the women I spoke with this morning, she was talking to a friend who had gone through the process recently with his children, and they were describing what it's like in the hielera, and I think some of you may have heard about it. That's why we have been asking for warm clothes, and we're so grateful. It felt awesome to be able to give out some of these thermals and silk undershirts and wool sweaters, and we were giving them out. This morning was raining, and people were really grateful, because they're literally only allowed one level of clothing, sometimes two. Some of them have been allowed to wear Under Armour and then a shirt, but then others are no, we just have one shirt. We did hear that I think the kids are allowed to wear more layers, hopefully, but what this woman described, that her friend had described, was basically that it's torture. It's a form of psychological torture. And what's happening is, they said that they're put in this room completely packed with people, really poor food, Spam out of a can, and then they said that they actually blast the AC in the morning to its maximum capacity, and the kids are in there shaking and trembling because they're only given an emergency blanket to keep warm and a really, really thin pad to sleep on. And we also heard about some verbal, so then they're in there for 3 days, and then they're given an interview. So literally it's designed to make people lose their minds, get frustrated, get crazy. Imagine seeing your children suffering in that way and not being able to help them. We read stories about some of the parents that were I didn't eat anything, I just let my kids eat the food, because they were given, one of our guys said, a frozen burrito that just stayed frozen. That was what they had to eat. Is really appalling. And then after 3 days of that experience, then you go in for your interview. So it's designed so that people are totally not in a good place when they're doing that interview process. The good thing is that at least families with kids have only been held around 3 days in there. I believe they're allowed to be held up to 20 days. But for the most part, they've been able to get through and get across. Then imagine they come out the other side, and what do they do then? They don't speak English, they might not have money, and so then we're trying to facilitate. There are groups like San Diego Rapid Response. They're awesome. If you can make a donation to them, that is really helpful for people coming out on the other side. And we also have some of our friends on our team that go across and welcome the families. So then some of the other money that we'll need is trying to help the families who do have relatives then get to where they need to go. So last week we had bought a ticket for someone going to Colorado. So now we have a family that needs to get to Texas, and so that's a lot of money. If you have 3 kids and mom and dad, and you need to get to another state from San Diego where you don't have any money, you don't speak English, like literally how is that going to happen? They need help. So some of the families we talked to, I wanted to share a little bit because most of the people we've been working with from the Caravana are from Honduras. This morning I got to chat with a woman from Nicaragua and learn a little bit about what's been going on in that country, because it obviously has not been shared on the news. And basically, I'm not sharing any identifying factors, but I wanted to share that this family are very educated. They're very educated professionals. And basically, there was student protests going on against the government in Nicaragua, starting from last April. And then the government sanctioned the paramilitarios, like the gangs, the violent groups, to go and begin killing the students that were protesting. And so basically, then the government said to shut down the hospitals. Like, we're not going to open the hospitals because we want these kids to die, because we don't want them to protest us. And then there were groups of people that developed like secret hospitals because they were like literally just harm reduction, life or death. We're going to help some of these kids stay alive. And then now they're being persecuted, and that's why they had to flee the country. So just as an example to see the diversity of people that are here seeking asylum, there's people from all walks of life, all different classes, education levels, stories, backgrounds. I just continue to hear the propaganda about the migrants in general, especially from Honduras, but as well as within Mexico. So we've heard propaganda in the United States against the caravan, but there's also propaganda in Mexico against the caravan. So I was talking to some Mexican friends yesterday, and they were explaining that, just like happened after Standing Rock, they highlighted all the garbage that was left there, even though some of it was actually like planted there. We had documentation, and they also were not allowed to clean up. So that happened here too. In one of the big shelters, there was a rainstorm, and they cleared everyone out in the middle of the night, and then there was garbage in the ground. And so then people are trying to make it look like these people don't take care of themselves and this and that. So there's just the continued propaganda and skewing of like who these people are. And again, of course, in any group, there's always going to be, some personalities, but really, for the most part, the grand majority of people we've met are very kind, very have incredible integrity, because if they wanted to be part of crime, they would have stayed in their home country and joined the gangs. So I just continue to share that for anyone that you might know that may believe some of the propaganda. It's like, if these people wanted to have a life of organized crime, that's the only job that's hiring back in Honduras or Nicaragua, any of these places. And so these are people that have said no to participating in the violence, and they're coming here seeking a better life of peace. What else can I tell you? We're working on a song. So our friend Adam Elfers, if you've been following him, he has collaborated with some migrants, and now even extended to some Haitian migrants who have been here from a few years ago. There was like a large gathering of them here, and a lot of them have been dispersed into Tijuana. So there's going to be a really awesome song. So stay tuned. We shot a video last weekend, and we've been adding scenes to it. So we really hope that that's going to get some momentum and kind of excitement and positivity, as well as getting the word out. And so now they've taken to starting to perform locally in different areas, and also share that message of the Caravana, and also this the idea of unity, that people from all different backgrounds can connect through something like music. I'm personally not a musician, so I'm just kind of tagging along, but it's awesome. It's nice to have something really positive to offer to people. So some of the plans that we're working on long term are figuring out ways for more sustainable housing for not only ourselves, the volunteers, but also the migrants. People who are coming short term, people who are going to be staying here longer term. Because right now it's literally just a bunch of shelters, and then people are renting apartments and Airbnbs, and then there's a lot of people, will run into friends from the Caravana, and this guy was like, I've slept outside for the past 3 days. I don't have anywhere to go. The shelters are charging, even if it's just a couple dollars, they can't get it. They don't have any money. Some of them have working papers, some of them don't. Some of them have different kinds of working papers, and then the pay is really low, even if you can get that. So then that brings in this desperation that some people are having. Unfortunately, we've had a couple people commenting about suicidal thoughts, because they're like, it's so hard here. I'm going to give up. you know, some people that are worried, like some of our friends that are in the Hielero right now, their other friends are like, you know, we're really worried that they're going to give up. Like without us here and being inside and not having like access to anything, no communication, being like emotionally, you know, abused in there, some of them are going to give up. And that is the intention. Like that is what is so cruel. And so, you know, I would like that I would know more people, like formal human rights people working on this. I don't know that they are. I assume that someone is doing something about it. But if you know people out there that can continue to bring attention or media attention or awareness to the literal like psychological damage that is being done to people, I'm actually thinking I'm at that point. I think I need to write a formal article and submit it somewhere because it's not right. I mean, like it's one thing to say, you know, we don't want you to come here, but you're going to follow the process. But to let emotionally torture people and put them in these cold conditions and then abuse them, I mean, it's someone has to do something on a more formal level. So if you're a lawyer, if you're a human rights organizer, anything like that, like just continue to bring awareness because that's what the families are saying. Like, how can this keep continuing? Like, how can they be doing this and no one's doing anything about it? And so it's really appalling to think how many people must be working in these organizations that are seeing like these children and these innocent people being treated like criminals, like dogs, como perros, they said, and yet it's still sanctioned, it's still happening. So it's really hard to understand. And it's really hard to work with people here that are in that moment of having hope, like, okay, we're going to cross, our number is coming, we have a chance at asylum, we have a chance at the American dream. And yet knowing that they might have to go and sit in these detention centers for months, up to a year. If some of them if they have ever been deported and they had entered illegally and were criminally deported, then they are legally allowed to hold them for a year as punishment. And during that whole year, what are they doing? They're expecting them to give up. They're expecting them to say, just let me go home, can't be here anymore. So it's very cruel and unusual punishment. It's not right. What else? Do you guys have questions? Sorry, there's like so much that happens here, and then I like forget what to update. Oh, sponsorship. We need sponsors. Please get the word out about sponsors. You would need to host someone in your home. You can collaborate with someone else to be a fiscal sponsor so that if you have a home space but maybe not the extra money, you can work with someone that can help provide the money so that you can provide for the families, or just a one person, whatever it is. We're going to try to put together some little like almost promo videos for some of our friends that need sponsors, like meet so-and-so. He's great. You would love to have him in your home. Because I know otherwise it can be challenging. You don't know who you're going to get. But at the same time, that is one of the ways that people can get out of the Hielero, the detention centers, sooner. So thank you, Lilith. We will be launching another Facebook fundraiser like in an hour out of our friend Kay's page. And so stay tuned for that. We really appreciate all of the support that you've been given, and we were gonna write like a little budget together, but like we provide all kinds of like little random things, like take the guys to get haircuts, or you know, for the job they needed to get an apron and a black shirt, so we get them that, and just all kinds of things, giving rides, you know, bus tickets, getting laundry done, bringing people back and forth to the legal services, to medical support. There's a lot of like little things that add up, and then obviously paying for our own housing and food and gas. Because, you know, it costs money here too. And I just, you know, I hate to see some of my activist friends like digging deep into their own pockets and coming out like with nothing after working all day, every day, helping people. So, you know, just as like a team, I know that we think about it like at Standing Rock, it can be difficult to accept money. Emotionally, it can be kind of like who am I to ask for money? And at the same time, like we reach a point where, you know, people either trust your integrity and they know what you're doing, or they don't. People are gonna talk smack about anyone that asks for money, and we recognize that, but at the same time it's not right that people that are working, you know, 10 hours a day being here are also then like going broke. And I'm not talking about myself because, you know, I have my own businesses, but yeah, I want to encourage, I guess, other activists as well to and people out there, if you can send that encouragement to activists, saying that I know like it helps people participate. It helps you who are working, who are home, who are far away, who can't be here, to be able to help, you know. And I think that that's a narrative that could also be encouraged, that like it literally allows us to work as a team. It allows us to collaborate. It allows you all to be part of our work here. If you're able to even send $5, then we turn around and we buy migrants something with those $5, and it really makes a difference. It does. You know, just now I just had a phone call from a woman that they decided to go to another place in Mexico, and they were like, could you help us buy land so we can have a house here? And we're like, you know, we don't have funds for that at all. But, you know, there's just always need, always causes. One of our friends has gone all out and helped one of the guys from Honduras get the money to pay his school fees for his families back home. Because that's another angle to think about. You know, when these people are going into the Hielera in detention, they can't work. And even when they're first in the U.S., if they are granted to continue the process of asylum, they're not allowed to work for 180 days. So meanwhile, like, they've left their families to come here to seek a better life, to provide for their families. But in the meantime, how are their families going to survive? Because there's no jobs, there's no work. That's why they left. So that's another way that we want to encourage funds that can ultimately be able to then get down to Honduras. So when our guys, our friends here and where people are working, we would like to be able to help supplement their housing and food costs, so that would allow them to send more money back home so that their families can literally eat and not be homeless, because the conditions are really dire there. What else? Yeah, I think that's about the update for right now. Stay tuned for the launch of our fundraiser, and we're also going to do a live feed about sponsorship specifically, because I've gotten a lot of like, what is it? I want to do it, I don't know about it, and I am not an expert on it myself, so we're going to do a live feed with my friend who knows a lot more about it, and then you can contact him directly if you want to pursue the process. Again, the primary ideal places we're looking for sponsors are in New York, California, and Hawaii. They just happen to have the highest rates of asylum being approved by their judges, but especially San Francisco in particular. But obviously, you know, they need somewhere to go anywhere, and so we're really grateful if you can open your home anywhere. But it is interesting. You can actually go online. I'll try to find a link or to post a screenshot. You can go in and check the judges and see, like, okay, this judge has approved 5% of asylum cases. This one has approved 50%. This one has approved 90%. It's like so random. I don't know how enough about the legal process that it can be that inconsistent. You know, like in New York City, the lowest approval rating is 35%. In another place in California, the highest rating is 35%. I don't know, maybe not California, just a different state. I think that was Oregon. So imagine, like, if you have 100 people presenting their asylum cases that are all different and unique cases, why is it that one person is approving all of them and one other judge is approving none of them? So shout out to the lawyers if you can help me understand that. And then also, like, I don't know, there just needs to be more immigration lawyers and judges, and I was reading an article about that. There's only like 400 immigration judges in the country or something like that. Don't quote me on the number, but it was a really surprisingly low number. And that's also, and then with the government shutdown, the cases have been backed up even more. And so literally, like, everyone that has already been waiting is going to have to wait that much longer because there's not enough sort of staffing to continue the process of seeking asylum. And that, just to share, that's been one of the biggest critiques of this whole fabrication, that this is like a particularly unusual crisis. It's not unusual that this many migrants are here trying to get into the United States. What is different is that there's this many people trying to seek the legal process of seeking asylum, which puts more pressure on the United States government to actually have to receive them and follow international law of you know, human rights that protect people seeking asylum. So that is why there's sort of this so much negative propaganda, because they don't want people to actually come through the legal process, because then they have to provide for them, which you can see as an example of how they're returning people back to Mexico. Basically, they're trying to get out of providing for them. So I don't know how much I should say, because I'm standing at the U.S.-Mexico border right now with lots of you know, government and police around me, but this is just the truth. So yeah, Scott, sorry, I don't know why some judges approve or don't approve. If someone could like research into that, that would be awesome. But we're gonna go meet with a pastor right now about this other space that has been primarily helping deportees and trying to encourage them to integrate with the collaboration to help also the migrant populations, because we're all, in some ways, it's quieted down, because like today they're at 1895, so 1895 was the number they finished today. So that means that 2,000 numbers have been called. Each of those numbers had 10 people with them. So that means not that every single person has taken the numbers. Some have given up, they moved away, whatever's happened. But just to give you an estimate of like how many people have been going through this process just since this caravan arrived. And then there is another caravan that's supposed to come. I believe that some of them were arriving into Mexico City. I saw some numbers of how many were crossing into Tapachula and Chiapas. So there are thousands more on their way. The reason that they come to Tijuana is because Tijuana is by far the safest border city. There is some tourism here, and obviously now there's been more mobilization of organizations to help the migrants. So we met a family this morning that had spent time in Reynosa, then in Monterrey, and it was so dangerous and so complicated to try to cross that they were advised to come to Tijuana, where they have this list system where they can get a number. So yeah, it's just, I mean, I wish that there was more way to help in the other border towns. I don't know anything about them, and I'm sure it's very complicated to plug in there. And just like in Tijuana here too, you know, it's not been an easy process. And just a shout out to volunteers that are feeling called to show up here also. It is really ideal if you connect with some people ahead of time. You know, we've had some volunteers that were like, oh yeah, we got it all set up, and then it's not. It's, you know, we saw that at Standing Rock too. It just try to like get yourself linked in to some people that are here, or just people that can connect you to people here, because it's not easy to just show up and plug in. There are not large shelters. They're big encampments that were here at the beginning that it was pretty easy to kind of just walk in and like find a way to serve. They don't have those anymore. It's these smaller closed shelters. Even within our volunteer teams, we're kind of like, hey, why don't we know more about more of the shelters? They're all kind of like do their own thing in their own space. So we're trying to network and expand our connections to different shelters as well. Like just this morning, these kids were like, do you know of a shelter that we could stay in? And, you know, we had to refer them to some other organizations to get more support on that. And then obviously there's always a need for more shelters. I mean, everywhere in the world, but especially here in Tijuana for the people who are waiting to cross to try to get asylum, or people that come here. You know, there's other forms of seeking migration and seeking different legal visas and such. And so, yeah, if you have like, so some of our ideas is to try to get like a camp or something like that, a larger like sustainable environment set up to house people. So that would be one of the bigger wish list items and everything to make that sustainable. At the same time, like I still think it's dangerous if we do it outside, because a lot of the territories here are controlled by different cartels, which we're not familiar with. So we wouldn't want to bother anyone like that. So, all right, well, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you later.